I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. What is up, everybody? So I did an interview on stage at an event that I'm going to play for you today. I had it recorded. So it's going to be a little bit of a different episode than you're used to, but the interview still touches on business and it's focused a little bit more on the events industry. So hopefully you still enjoy it. I liked it. I had a good time, but I want to tell you a little bit more about it before I play it. It was at the Northwest Event Show, which is a premier conference and trade show for event professionals, attracting over 2,000 attendees and 200 exhibitors each year here in Seattle at the Washington Convention Center. There's networking, there's a huge trade show floor, and there's also content, including the keynotes and the breakout sessions, which I was a part of the keynote. Really quick on the trade show floor, I'm sure many of you have been to one, but this one is so fun because you'll walk in, there's stilt walkers, there's luxury restrooms, there's, obviously a lot of catering companies, there's photo booths, there's dancers, like it's just the most fun floor. And anybody that's ever been in the event industry that I've ever met is there. So it's really fun to reconnect with everyone. It's a fun little reunion. It's put on by Butler Events, which is a transportation company here, and Stuart Butler is the CEO over there. So he takes on this project of putting on the Northwest Event Show, and I'm so grateful that he does. But I was approached by them last year, and they wanted me to do a keynote interview, and so we kind of brainstormed who would this audience want to hear from. And I, as an event planner myself, I want to hear from some of those people we don't get to hear from, like, planning these huge things, like the planner of Coachella or the planner of the Consumer Electronics Show, which is one of the biggest trade shows, or the planner of the Oscars, like, who can we have? So I made this whole long hit list, and I just started reaching out and trying to find contacts. And I was able to get a hold of Cheryl and her team over at Sequoia Productions, her and her team produce some of the most prestigious, one-of-a-kind, buzzed-about events, including the Academy Awards and Emmy Awards Governor's Ball. So the Oscars and the Emmys Governor's Ball in LA, and she's been doing that for about 3 decades. So we were incredibly lucky that she was able to do this and wanting to do this. So she flew up from LA. The title of our talk is A Peek Behind the Hollywood Curtain, Oscars, Emmys, and More. So I'll play that in just a minute. But I wanted to mention, after we did this interview, I then was part of what's called the Happy Pavilion within the trade show. So this woman, Olivia, put together some of her favorite vendors into this little experience, this little booth type thing. And I was part of it. So what I was doing was these pop-up podcast interviews. It was really fun. Nick, my audio engineer, brought, actual microphones, headphones. We were recording. It was live, but I basically had different topics that people could riff on and podcast about. And so as people walked by, I said, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? So I bring them up, do you want to talk about music or TV shows or relationships or what do you want to talk about? And they tell me, and I'm like, all right, let's go. So I just kind of made up some questions, and it was so fun. I don't know if I'll ever do anything with the recordings. It was really just to showcase, this is something that you could do at your event. You could have, real interviews. You can do fun stuff like this and ask your employees different questions. Kind of showcase my interview skills if they ever need somebody to do something on stage, and honestly just have fun. It was like really fun to do that and see everybody. And so we got some cool pictures. And then, after that, I went to moderate a panel with Elevate and Armoire. I think I'll probably talk more about that in the next episode. But anyway, because of all the interviews and such this week, I didn't want to do a whole nother episode. So, shout out to Tech Event Pro, Tony Gavilanis. He was on the podcast earlier, and his company actually won the bid and was the AV production company for this entire conference. And that meant that when I reached out to ask to get this recording really quickly, because that was yesterday, Tony sent it over to me. So I think with that, I will play A Peek Behind the Hollywood Curtain with Cheryl Cecchetto, founder and CEO of Sequoia Productions. Take a listen. You mentioned about how you were a coordinator with Governor's Ball and kind of got your way in. A lot of us want to get some of these high-end contracts. How were you able to get those and continue to get some of these high-end contracts?
So are you saying how can you secure the
Correct, yeah. How can you win the bid? Yeah.
Well, all I can tell you is that I was very lucky, but I also did have organizational skills that were noticed. I honestly think that if one job is great, people will find you. I know we have social media. I never even look at our social media. You just must give 110%, at the job that you have so that the next person absolutely cannot imagine not securing. Now, that size of a job usually takes time. So it really is about the relationship that you develop at every level. And it's also about being aware and coming up with one of my questions was, do you have something different to offer? Something unique to offer? Something that you think that everyone must have at their event and experience. And they will find you. If your work is good and it's sincere and you really do have that 110% work ethic, clients will find you.
I love it. So another question, part of why I wanted to talk to you is, what changes when you get to that echelon of events with, and maybe that's infrastructure, communication, team size. What's different, or maybe it's not that different? Is it all kind of the same from traditional events?
Rachel, that's a really great question.
Thanks.
I must tell you, no, it's a really good question. So now you're dealing with the Joe Stewarts, that's the costume designer for Friends. Now you're dealing with, the producer of this. They have their careers. Most of the time in this type of an event, they are so established in their own career, you better be buttoned up and you better not waste their time. Also, you're dealing with dollars and cents that are, as I said, I really do feel that these budgets are tight, but they're different budgets than if you're throwing a party at someone's home. So you must be a genius when it comes to money. The entire elevation of leadership that you're dealing with is beyond that you would not even experience until you secure the know-how. I can stand up here because, as Devin said, I've been in the business for 3 decades. It wasn't my intention, but I did have the organizational skills to offer. So there was a niche. Finding the niche and really knowing who your client is. I had this conversation with my staff before I left. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? I'm talking to Rachel. I might talk to somebody else. It's not that I'm going to talk differently. I'm just going to think differently because I have to be hypervigilant and really get into their brain.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer.
I have to have a sip of water.
Please, take your time. I'll tell a story. No, I'm just kidding.
Tell a story.
Well, my podcast is recapping local business news stories, so that's part of why I wanted to interview you. So if you're interested in hearing about that, I interview a different CEO each week, and we kind of go over the top 5 stories. So you can check that out, The Weekly Seattle. Okay, back from commercial break. And so you shared a lot of different stories, which I love, and I know you have more in you. So I want to hear a little bit about a memorable challenge. Obviously, the fish is one challenge, but is there another challenge that sticks out to you, and how did you overcome it?
Should I tell the chandelier story?
I was hoping you would.
So another ball chair, Dwight Jackson, also a television scenic designer. These are really talented people. He says, well, you know what? I want the theme to be diamonds are a girl's best friend, Marilyn Monroe. I said, okay. I'm going to deliver a chandelier to her office. I said, okay. So he gets the chandelier at Costco. It comes to my office. Each of the chandeliers has something like 350 glass pendants. It comes assembled. Thank heavens, I thought, until I looked at the wire that was actually attaching the glass, not plastic, glass drops, hit head, hurt, attached from the pendant to the base, the actual base of the chandelier. They were so cheap. I don't know how many he ordered. All I know is at my office, I think we have a photo to show it, don't we? Don't we have the chandelier photo?
Justin? Is that it?
That's it. That's one. And can we go to the second one? Do you see all the bracelets hanging from the ceiling? I think he ordered something like 250, and we had to change 250 times 300 glass pendants in my office so that I was not going to have anything fall on anybody's head. And that's what it ended up looking like. But just note that every one of those chandeliers had 300 and some glass times 200 and some chandeliers to create these magnificent necklaces hanging from the ceiling, so you can know what we were all doing for 2 weeks straight.
I think in the book there was something like a total of 99,000.
No, it was staggering.
I love that. I feel like that's events, those all the behind the scenes that we deal with that a lot of people would never think about. I want to talk about your industry. We all deal with high pressure situations, but when you're dealing with something like the Oscars, that's a different level of high pressure. How do you maintain calm? How do you maintain control? What about you kind of sets you apart in that way?
It's really about detail. People say to me, 1,500 people. The Emmys are 8,000 between 3 events, but you don't look at it that way. You must take the entire space and divide it up. I would say 1,500, fine. Divided by 15, okay. Those are all individual restaurants which have their own staff, their own management, their own bar, their own service bar. So I take the mass events that are aside from details and whatnot, and I completely and totally break it up into various rooms. Also, I'm really stuck on detail and pre-planning and job delegation charts and timelines and contact sheets and layouts and specifics. I know. My staff says you kill a lot of trees. I know.
You're talking to the right people. All of us are like, yes, we love those things.
Exactly. That's the only way you can manage these large events. Now, I've had some really uncomfortable situations happen at some of these high-profile events, and one person, I'm not going to mention her name, is in jail right now.
Do it. Oh.
Yeah, I won't even discuss that. Or maybe I should have even said that. Maybe I should cut that part. But it was really difficult. And sometimes you just can't deal with difficult in the middle of a ball. You have to take the situation and remove it. And perhaps at a later time, you can figure out, okay, that wasn't fair. That shouldn't have happened. What are we going to do about it? But in a circumstance, you've got to remove the difficult, make sure the person that is being abused or whatever is comfortable, right? Because we don't want anyone to be abused in any form or fashion at any event, and then move on with the event and deal with it afterwards.
I think because you're talking about you deal with a lot of celebrities that maybe don't want their picture taken or being approached as much, and kind of make sure you have boundaries around them, right? Yeah.
I have to tell you, I feel that celebrities get a bad rap. If I was a celebrity and I'm bombarded nonstop, and I think I would be exhausted, I have to tell you, Emma Thompson, I helped her and I snuck her around to the when her Oscar was getting engraved, to the engraving station. Because you could imagine, in fact, on the way, she just wanted a glass of water. So I actually feel that seeing the celebrities so much in my work, and by the way, people say, oh, did you talk to this person? Did you talk to that person? No. That's not my job. My job is to make everything right so my clients can talk to that person or that person can talk to that person. I'm not here to schmooze with celebrities. That's not my job. I'm a producer. But I do feel like the celebrities in Los Angeles are often, I don't know, there seems to be a feeling that they're put off or above it all. It's absolutely mind-boggling. You could go home to your home tonight and have a glass of wine or a cup of tea or whatever and peacefully be there. It's usually not the circumstance. And also this philanthropy that exists among them is staggering because I've been a part of it for so many years and it's been so wonderful to see the contributions.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the attendees are kind of like my children, like I don't see them. I agree with that. So because I host a business podcast and the title of Northwest Event Show is Events Driving Business, I kind of wanted to touch on that. What role do you think events play in the business world? And how have you seen that kind of change?
I have to tell you, I'm not a Zoom person, though I do go on Zoom. I didn't grow up with computers. I'm so sorry. Our phone was tethered to a wall. It was a party line. Seriously, one long, two shorts. But I feel that events are absolutely essential. We need to connect. We need to let people connect. We need to let people laugh, see each other, talk to each other. I mean, Rachel and I were on Zoom for a meeting, and now we met each other in person. It's a complete different, it's not better or worse. It's just a complete different feeling when you can actually talk to somebody. Brand. Do you see all the sponsors all over our videos? We take brands left and right, and this is the way that product is sold. I don't know if anybody knows the product Fresh. We introduced it to the world about 15 years ago. Fiji and wine, and literally, there are so many areas of brands to not only support your event, not only supply money and help your client with your event and increase your budget, but also to just sell their product. But I think we desperately need events and continue, especially after what we've gone through. LA's been hit so hard, not only with COVID, then there's the fires, then there's the strikes. What else? I think we had an earthquake a couple of weeks ago. What else? We must stay true to our events and the connections that we're making from person to person.
Yeah, you were talking about how a lot of products, like you said, are getting more involved with events or activations, and they're like kind of straying away from the traditional advertising avenue. Would you agree?
Oh, number one.
Yeah.
And it can be anything from something that you consume, something you see. I just got a call from my client and said this particular AV company wants exclusive 100%, and you might have to use them for this year's Emmys coming up. Well, I thought, well, that was pretty smart of that particular AV company to say the Emmys. So there's so many ways that not only from a product, Fiji is everywhere, Justin Wines, there's so many products, but it's not just a product, it's also services.
I'm going to try and get one more story out of you if you have something.
Okay, and if I'm forgetting something, you can just say, hey, you forgot that.
Well, we asked about memorable and high pressure. Is there another behind-the-scenes story? I just love those. Any kind of behind-the-scenes that you can think of?
Give me a hint.
Well, you can choose whichever one you want. I was going to... Well, you already did the chandelier one, but if you had a different one. If not, I have another question. We can skip.
Okay, suggest one.
Okay, well, we'll skip to the next one.
Well, let's go. Okay.
We'll skip on forward. Okay, so let's talk about, we're running out of time a little bit here. So I want to look forward. How do you see the future of event production especially involving audience engagement and experiential design? What do you see moving forward?
So, the look right now is very clean, very cut, right? And of course, it's very immersive. I think that it's our responsibility to not only connect with each other, but I think also, and another story maybe we could flip to, because I have a couple pictures here, is sustainability. I think it's really important that we do sustain with all of our events. Being Canadian, it's an incredible sustainability where I'm from. Literally, if you have more than one bag of garbage per week, you get charged $5 a bag. So with Sequoia, we are devoted not only on really making sure that everything is immersive, that there's an experience. I was very impressed with all the food trucks, by the way, on the floor. I thought to myself, we have an event coming up at Fox, and wow, like a dozen of these food trucks would be just so incredibly immersive, interactive. That's where we're after. But I think also sustainability is a really important factor, not only from recycling bottles and using biodegradable this and solar and whatever, but I think we have the opportunity to take our materials. We are not a company that stores product because all of our events must be customized. But sometimes I'll use a product over and over again. And I was telling Rachel the story of when we were, actually it was January, Emmys 2024, and we didn't know if we were going to even have an Emmys because of the strike. And I had to pull the trigger, and the client let me order a lot of chain. So I thought to myself, my God, I don't want to throw out all this chain. It was a lot of money. We'd shipped it in from China. So what we did was we took the exact same chain and created a fabulous lounge for another client.
Justin, do we have a picture of that?
I have the picture of the original Emmy event. This is all the change with these fantastic arches. And if you notice, you see all the columns right here? So we took the columns apart and used them, and you can flip to the next picture. That is a really beautiful lounge in the center of an NFL event in New Orleans that we just produced. Now, neither client really knew what I did, but I saved money for both. That's really helpful. And again, where was all this chain going to go? By the way, at the end of this event, I gave the scenic fabricator that built that center lounge the columns for them to use at several other events. So really try to think about how can we move product through various events, even giving it to another event company or a scenic company.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got one more question for you, and it's just, what's next for Sequoia Productions? I know you're kind of moving away from the Governor's Ball. What's next for Sequoia? What's next for you?
Well, interesting. Cheryl Cecchetto has learned her lesson after 3 decades. She can't just submerge all of her work in the entertainment world, because if the entertainment world goes away because of a strike or whatever, where is she left? So we have really diversified. And I'm going to give you 2 tips. Diversify. Make sure your clients are not all one category. So we have corporate clients, we have entertainment clients, we have personal clients, private clients, etc. Much, much smarter. Also, we're going to continue doing large events, and I can tell you that if you ask me to do my career all over again, and I said this to you on our Zoom call, Rachel, the problem with me is that I don't want to be the chef that just orders the food. I want to be the chef that cooks the food. So that didn't allow me to contemplate as much. Now, I would look back and I would say that the number one item that I didn't do enough was contemplate. And I'm always trying to get the younger generation. Don't turn on your computer and answer emails 100 miles an hour. Stop, contemplate, organize. And the other thing is to diversify your clients, because you'll get stuck. I was stuck. during the strike of 2023. Really stuck. We're very, very lucky, by the way, knock wood, that we made it after so many challenges in Los Angeles.
And weren't you saying multi-year contracts? Would you recommend that for people?
Oh, I didn't talk about that. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm running over again. Here's the thing. Once you do secure a client, we have clients 6, 10, 15, up to 33. You want a multiple year contract, but you're not going to get it till you deserve it. So did you come up with something that they couldn't even imagine could be possible? Did you give them back $1? That was one of my survey. Give them back $1, never, never, ever go over budget. Come back and give them a deal. All that chain, right? Then you can say after 2-3 years, I want to work on your brand, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It does happen because their metrics are very important to you. Gold Gala, which is Asian Pacific Islanders, that's the client, that's the leadership. They are now our multiple year client. They came to us the first year, second year out of their event, disaster. The metrics tripled. You want to secure that so you can say, oh, I got my year. 75% of it is multiple year. But how do you get there? It's a bit of a long story, but I hope I've given you abbreviated inspiration to definitely do it and how to secure it.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for coming into Seattle. And we're going to be out in the speaker meet and greet for about 10-15 minutes. So if you have more questions for Cheryl, please come join us. So round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God, that was so fast. It was so fast.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Again, we'll be back next week with our regular program, and we've got some fun guests coming up this season, so I'm excited. And it's Friday, so I'm going to what I call my office hours. So every Friday, I go to Yonder Cider, kind of between 4 and 6, and I'm just there, and I'm hanging. And so some pals show up, and whoever shows up, and it's welcome to anybody. And so yeah, if you're around, if you feel like grabbing a cider, come on by, and we'll check you next time. This has been The Weekly, with production assistance from Nick Patry. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.